Hey everybody, I got a video here for you today, and this is something I did not include in one of my pyramid videos, and this is Hawara, the Pyramid of Hawara, Amenemhet's, and this is the site of the ancient labyrinth coming from writers about 2,000 years ago. Existed right in this area here, and a Mr. Lepsius, who I've mentioned before a few times, and I'll leave some links below. He wrote about this in about 175 years ago. He was down here when maybe things were a little easier to be seen and you could get down below the surface a lot better. But I just want to read from his research done here because I will mention this site. It is lost history and we're just catching up with what ancient writers were writing about. But first of all, this is the video I did on the labyrinth, and really this is one of the more amazing lost history sites in Egypt, and people have said this is just as incredible as any pyramid, what is below the ground here. And ancient writers wrote about it about 2,000 years ago, and it seems people that have come along in the meantime, they have done ground penetrating radar and confirmed it. But this is a very amazing story, and check out Dr. Carmen Bolter's videos on this subject. But this is the video I did on the labyrinth, and this is where it is located. There's a canal cutting right across the top of this area. But let's read from the work done about 175 years ago. And this is written on June 25th, 1843. From the labyrinth these lines come to you, not from the doubtful, or at least always disputed one, of which I could form no idea from the previous, and more than a meager descriptions of those who place a labyrinth here, but the clearly defined labyrinth of Moros and the Dodecarts. There is a mighty knot of churches still existing, and in the midst is the great square, where the ulae are covered with the remains of the great monolithic pillars of granite, and others of white, hard limestone, gleaming almost like marble. I came near to the spot with a certain fear that we should have to seek to confirm the accounts of the ancients by the geographical position of the place, that every form of its architectural disposition would be wiped away, and that a shapeless heap of ruins would frighten us from every attempt at investigation. Instead of this, there were immediately found on a cursory view of the districts a number of confused spaces as well as subterranean, and the principal mass of the building, which occupied more than a stadium according to Strabo, was distinctly to be seen. Where the French expedition had fruitlessly sought for chambers, we find literally hundreds, by and over each other, little, often very small, by larger and great, supported by diminutive pillars, with thresholds and niches, with remains of pillars and single-wall slabs connected together by corridors, so that the descriptions of Herodotus and Strabo are quite confirmed in this respect. At the same time, the idea, never coincided in by myself, of serpentine, cave-like windings instead of square rooms is definitely contradicted. The disposition of the whole is that three mighty clumps of buildings of the breadth of 300 feet surround a square 600 feet in length and 500 in width. The fourth side is bounded by the pyramid lying behind, which is 300 square feet and therefore does not quite come up to the side wings of the great buildings. A rather modern canal, which may be pumped up, at least at this season of the year, is diagonally drawn through the ruins, cutting right through the most perfectly preserved of the labyrinthic rooms, and a part of the square in the center, which was once divided into courts. Travelers have not wished to wet their feet, and so remained on this side, where the continuation of the wings of the buildings is certainly much concealed by the rubbish mounds. But even from this, the eastern bank, the chambers on the opposite side, and particularly at the southern point, where the walls rise almost 10 feet above the rubbish and 20 above the level of the ruins, are very easy to be seen, and when viewed from the heights of the pyramid, the regular plan of the whole lies before one like a map. Who was, however, the Moros, the Mendes, who according to the reports of the Greek, erected the labyrinth, or rather the pyramid belonging to it, as this monument? In the royal list of Manetho, we find the builder of the labyrinth towards the end of the 12th dynasty, the last of the old empire, shortly before the eruption of the Hyksos. The fragments of the mighty pillars and architraves that we have dug out in the great square give us the cartouches of the 6th king of the 12th dynasty, Amenemhet III, and it says the cartouche of the 12th dynasty king Amenemhet III, and so he thinks this labyrinth is identified with Amenemhet III. It says, thus is the important question answered in its historical portion. We have also made excavations on the north side of the pyramid because we may suspect to discover the entrance there. That is, however, not yet done. We have obtained an entry into a chamber covered with piles of rubbish that lay before the pyramid, and here we have found the name of Amenemhet several times. The builder and possessor of the pyramid is therefore determined. The account of Herodotus that the construction of the labyrinths was commenced 200 years before his time by the Dodecards is not yet confuted. In the ruins of the great masses of chambers surrounding the great square we have discovered no inscriptions. It wasn't Egyptian. If it was Egyptian, they would have been covered in inscriptions. Later excavations may very probably certify to us that the whole building, and also the arrangement of the 12 courts, really fall in the 12th dynasty of Manetho, so that the original temple of Amenemhet was only included in this mighty erection. Did I just say mighty erection? Okay. So I thought that was a fascinating read from 175 years ago. Seems he had access to places and below the ground that people cannot get access to today, and he seemed to confirm what was written about 2,000 years ago. This always brings up the Edgar Cayce Hall of Records. People kind of tie this into the Hall of Records. Well, Mr. Cayce said it was located below a paw of the Sphinx, I believe. But he also has a sentence later on in his reading that says, from the Sphinx down to the pyramid of the Hall of Records. So I just find that interesting. But if there was a depository of ancient records, seems that what writers 2,000 years ago wrote about, and what Mr. Lepsius 175 years ago wrote about, and what ground-penetrating radar, this is a video I did a couple years ago, current technology has confirmed everything that was ever written about this place. There is a massive subterranean structure, 3 stories, right in front of here. The sands of time has covered it up, but some good work 175 years ago. He seems to have gotten below the ground, seems to confirm everything that was ever written about this place. Current technology has confirmed it. Ancient writers were blown away. I'll talk about the labyrinth all day long. So why wouldn't the Egyptian government excavate this place, open it up for tourism, and bring in millions and millions of dollars? Well, the answer's clear. Mr. Lepsius said, the stuff below the ground, this unbelievable structure, there is no inscription on it. It's not dynastic Egyptian, because that contradicts everything we know about the dynastic Egyptians. So I don't think this will ever be excavated, but I'll talk about it all day long. It's ancient history at its best, lost history at its finest. Hope you thought that was interesting, and you all have a very nice day.